can't just be one person with one vision. It has to become our vision.
Your passion will find your purpose.
The opposite of negativity sometimes isn't positivity. It's just understanding and presence. We're going to get right into this episode. I am super excited and grateful, one, to talk to Jaclyn again, but also to introduce Jaclyn to this entire audience and to learn from her and hear more about what she does. We had one call together and it was back and forth, energy giving. It was insight creating. It was incredible. And we just knew that we had to get on this podcast together. So first of all, Jaclyn, thank you for being the person you are and for being willing to use your gifts and share your gifts and wisdom with the world, but also with us on our podcast. So I want to say thank you first. And then I want you to dive into, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do. And then we'll get into these insights.
Thank you, TJ. I'm really excited to be here. And my story really begins with when I was going through some adversity and learning insecurities when I was young in high school. My senior year of high school, I had 29 absences, and I was pretty much destined to be unsure of what I was going to do in my future. And I had one of those moments, we call them the tipping points in your life, where someone came in the lunchroom recruiting Navy table and said, I think you should go in the Navy. And I was like, I don't even come to class. And I'm also a girl. So I felt like I was a shy kid at school. I was really insecure and struggled a lot with my self-worth back then. And so I ended up joining the Navy at 17 years old. And 2 weeks after graduating high school, just barely, I took my first plane ride to basic training and began my building of inner strength. And I learned a lot about how to learn and also how to get support from a team through the military. In our basic training, I had 20 best friends who instantly became my sisters, my brothers. We learned how to run together. We learned how to get up in the morning. We learned how that we could do things with the energy of each other around us that we thought maybe we couldn't do. I graduated from boot camp and I traveled the world. And unfortunately, I had some adversity where I experienced domestic violence in my partner relationship and ended up leaving that when my daughters were very young and began grad school to educate myself further. And I became a mental health counselor and fell in love with the field. The thing that I learned about mental health counseling, and this was the beginning before it was even really a thing. Now it's a thing. I've really gotten to be able to watch the mental health movement, which is one of the things that I'm super passionate about. When I graduated grad school in 2007, it was a really new field, and it's become something that is talked about now everywhere we go. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. So I learned how to learn through my own programs. I learned how to become my own self-master. I learned that it's okay to be wrong. I learned that it's okay not to know everything. I learned how to lean into the power of friendship and the power of doing things together creates a big result.
Wow. So that's a lot. That's like setting up everything, right? I mean, I'm curious about, can you tell us a little bit about kind of where you are as well before I get into some of my questions about what you just said? So kind of who you are or where you're located, excuse me. And then the company, the business that you have. I want to talk about that just for a second. And then we'll go into some responses back to that gold rich mine that you just dropped.
Absolutely. Thank you, TJ. Yes, I am the founder of Carolina Counseling Wellness Associates, CCWA. I created a company around 10 years ago, right before the boom of mental health has really taken off. I was working in domestic violence prevention and resources. I ran a safe house shelter back in South Baltimore with some great people. I learned through that about what I wanted to do with my career. So I started looking for an office in Raleigh, North Carolina when I was moved there, and I couldn't find an office, so I bought one. And then I bought another one, and it turned into 8 offices, and we just started growing this really safe, healthy, optimal workplace culture. I wanted to give the people who worked with us the same thing that I needed, which was safety, psychological safety, caring, being able to work in an environment that felt clean and optimal for our learning. So Carolina Counseling is a really special company that I've created with the people that work with me. We're a partner-based model. We don't really have a hierarchy. When I interview and bring on people, they're a partner from day one. So that's something that makes Carolina Counseling really, really special. And so that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. I just want to honor that and call to that. Obviously, I know the why we do what we do. We'll dive into that a little bit more. But I also wanted to again make the connection. Obviously, so we had just kind of met casually through Facebook and just kind of sharing the messages back and forth and just kind of recognizing the intention and the passion and the purpose for doing something in alignment. And this is just also a nudge to people, is like, send the message of encouragement, send the message of support to people, because you never know, it may end up being a podcast, or it may end up being a conversation that you need to have, that you need to hear, and it may be life-changing. And I've never met you in person, but obviously we're, lucky enough to have technology and things like this, so we can still do this, even though we're still many states away at this point. But anyway, so thank you for sending the message and kind of, again, sharing that purpose and passion, for helping other people kind of see themselves a little bit. And, so I want to talk a little bit about, the first, again, all those little insights you dropped. Very curious about how you went from going through something to helping people then go through something themselves. How did you kind of recognize that shift from, because a lot of people, when they go through something tough, they try to figure out how can they get through it. And then that's totally great. And as long as they've healed through that, or they're healing through that, and they go through that, but there's something different about people then who are inspired and see that maybe their purpose and passion is helping other people through the same thing. So tell me how you close that gap. What was that difference from doing it yourself to helping other people do it?
I remember when I started doing it, I'll start there. I had 2 little babies, my daughters, and I would push them around this giant jogging stroller, and they were so heavy, but it was such a part of my workout in the morning. And I took my military training through that time of my adversity of being a single mom, and I was in grad school, and I was learning during grad school how to recover and heal from the things that I had just experienced.
Wow.
And that is what I call alignment and synergy. And from my experience, it just collided. And I would be pushing this jogging stroller, and I'd be listening to my hip hop music that I love, and I'd put my hat on, and I had just gone through some things and left some hard things. And what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I just kept listening to this music, and I just kept pushing and growing and learning and healing. And I just got into that mindset of, I've got to do something with this. Like, this is my why. It turned into like my passion. I had an understanding for other people, and I didn't have to say anything about it. They could see it in my eyes that I understood.
Yeah. And making people feel that without hearing anything that's some of the recognition, and it's powerful to be able to say that. And again, when we first connected the first time, there's, again, you talked about the workplace culture. I'm also pretty confident you had told me that there's a book coming about said workplace culture. So tell me about workplace culture. Tell me about kind of how you make, and I'm going to use this word, I don't even know that you call it this, but kind of making work feel a little bit more human again.
I love that. Yes. Work is, if it feels like work, extra work. Think of how many hours we spend working in our career, in our lives. So, and I had a lot of different jobs before I got into my own business, and I had a lot of experience in leadership and working for government projects and things like that. So I really took those recipes of what worked and what didn't and created my own, and also working with the people that I work with and asking them what they need. It wasn't just about me. It was about what do you need? And I have a few people on my team, when they start, they're like, wait a second. I've never been asked that before. I'm like, when do you want to work? Is a question I ask. Like, when are you most optimal? And we're not a numbers-based model. And I consult about this model, and I'm writing about this model because it is a recipe that can be transferred to different cultures. And some of my people that work with me, I use the word with, not for. That language is important to me, and important to us is, when do you feel best to work? Are you best in the mornings? Are you best in the afternoons? One of my teammates just had a baby. He didn't ask for permission to leave. He just said, I'll be back next month. And I love that. That's what we're here for. There's no fear, obligation, or guilt in our workplace culture. And I do believe there's a movement that, after the great resignation during the pandemic, that people are like, I want to do something different. I want to love where I'm at. And I do see a lot of shifting and optimism in other arenas coming in this. Right. So
Yeah. Well, let me ask a question about that too, because so first of all, our team here, nobody works for me, and I'm also a healthcare leader, and nobody works for me in any way, shape, or form. And that's not just this like altruistic idea of servant leadership. It's actually, it's true, and it's rooted in what we do. And even with Brian and the team here, and as I continue to kind of develop this speaking business even more, the team is always going to be working with, because our for is our why, and they don't work for me, they work with me. And that's honestly how I see about all these people. But there's so much that has to be like foundationally built first. And I know a lot of people listening, when you talk about idealistic work-life cultures and an integration of work and life, similar to kind of what you just said, I'm kind of naming it a little bit based on having a balance of those two things. I know sometimes at first people kind of think, well, people are going to take advantage of that. Right. And I think there's always, I think it's a healthy to say, yes, there has to be some boundaries and structure in order for this to be a successful model, so that it's not taken advantage of. Can you talk a little bit about how you would kind of talk people off that ledge of, there's no way I could trust my team to have that freedom and autonomy like you just referenced?
that's great. It's really being an authentic leader and finding the right people to work with you. And it's trusting your intuition and your gut, and also just trust in a relationship. It's just like any relationship. You can feel if it's right for you or not. And I just work with a lot of great people, and I've had to let people go that don't fit in this model. They might need a different approach, and that's okay. So it's just that, and like a loving transition, and being able to let people leave that might be better with a deeper management system than we have. So it's those things, like learning how to let people go when they need to, and also keeping and bringing on the right people for the team. And that's that trust, and being clear and having clarity of what your mission statement is for your company.
Yeah. Do you do kind of a level set? Well, not even that. It's really more of a very clear and succinct expectation setting conversation when you, one, interview, and then two, they start working with your team?
That's right. Yes. And I've had a couple other podcasts that I write, and usually I'll have them listen to it. They're be like, here, this is what we do. Speaking specifically about our partnership-based model, which is what I have content that I write about that, and just seeing if they align with that. And sometimes they don't, and that's okay. And
yeah. Well, and I just, there's so many, anytime somebody quickly finds a fault in something, my natural lean into that is they already know that it's possible to be different. Otherwise, they wouldn't be calling out the fault. And we just have to collaborate and cultivate ideas on how do we avoid the thing. And oftentimes they're thinking about the one employee that abused something that was really effective. And so there's looking at both types of team members, call them employees or team members, looking at both types of team members and really leaning in on the ones that are emphasizing your culture, not the ones questioning your culture. And the culture is through them. It's not just the one setting the idea and setting that. Obviously has to be a sail and then the wind, right? But it can't just be one person with one vision. It has to become our vision. And obviously there's probably some components to what you do as well that it makes people kind of question their idea of work and kind of get excited about getting to come to work as opposed to having to come to work. How do you speak about that?
I love that. Yes, I'm a positive energy. My nickname is Lemonade Maker. So I've take things that were sour and I make them sweet, and I love that. This is the sweet life. So
You're right. Yeah, naturally fits, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that sweet tea, by the way?
It just a little bit.
Love it. I'm here for it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really speak a lot about my parallels from being domestic violence experienced, and also my therapeutic model of understanding the cycles of that also go in relationships at work. Being afraid at work is not something that I don't want the people that I work with to be having any of that in their system. I want them to feel at ease. I want them to feel comfortable. And for that, I have to be at ease and I have to be comfortable. And we're regulating our nervous systems. I also designed our workspace to be optimal, as in beautiful lighting, and we have soft music and chocolate, and it just feels like you walk in there and you're like, this is it. And this comes after I've worked in crisis and fluorescent lights and things that were really, really hard. And like I said, I believe in learning from those experiences that I had to create something that other people might need. Yeah. Or maybe they didn't think about it. So I have that. And when you walk into the space where we work, you feel that. We have a garden in the front. I have my team lead, Jaclyn, who is our gardener and our house plant manager. And I'm always giving her love for all the things that she can grow and finding our strengths together. Each team is going to have something that they love to do. And some people don't want to garden. Some people don't want to, make things this way. But what do you love to do? And your passion will find your purpose. What is it that you get up in the morning and get excited about doing? I love hip hop music. I love dancing. I love jogging around. I love making things and creating things. That's what I can do naturally. It doesn't feel like work when it's your passion. So finding those people on your team and finding their own passions and letting them feel safe enough to explore and grow those.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the energy component that you talked about with the positivity and the energy, and because it's contagious, but it's also inviting at the same time. And sure, there are times I'm sure that you are more positive about something than people would expect, but it's also perspective giving because it's not forcing that on people. It's giving people the opportunity and the perspective to we're in the same environment, but you're thinking about the environment differently. And that is sometimes just enough for people to move differently. And I've had people tell me kind of for a while now that I'm extra in the energy and all these different things, but it's also, I recognize my ability and desire to get excited, not out of control, still thinking clearly, but just feeling the energy and then sharing the energy back out. Yes. That is something I'm super passionate about. And I'm always, it's not that I'm excitable. Technically, I probably am. But I just find so much passion and joy in what we do and how we do it and getting to see other people. And it could be from some of the most simple moments, but I do get excited about those things. And it's just something that I've recognized as a bit unique at times. For some people, that it's I wake up excited. I don't like to go to sleep. I have to go to sleep because I know it's good for me, but I love being awake. And sometimes that's a lot for people. But obviously I'm sure there's a lot of positive energy too so leading into that. So how do you, after you've made your shift and you're in your positive space, there are people around us that aren't. How do you maintain you in those environments, whether it's work or personal life?
I love that question. And I believe that I felt your energy even through our first message that we talked about the word elevate. And that's Oh, you're a radiator. I'm a radiator. I remember when I started becoming a mental health counselor, I was doing like a one-on-one motivational speech with everybody I was working with.
Yeah.
Not everybody wanted the motivational speech, or they just weren't in a place to hear that. And I had to learn like that is my jam. This is who I am, and I have to understand and obviously read the room. There's some times where I have to hold space for people that are not in a space to be able to have that, and that's something that I've got training in and I have education and experience in, to be able to just hold space and be a container of safety, and also not have that affect my inner core. And so that's a delicate balance. As far as our workplace culture, one of our favorite things to do is we don't have very many meetings. So we don't have a lot of like things that we have to all get together and like perform. I'm as needed mentorship, leadership. So therefore, if they're coming to me, it's because they needed that support and that energy. My team knows I'm a motivational speaking leader, that I am here to radiate, to support, positive affirmations. There's always emojis, exclamation points. Like, this is just what I have. This is what I'm going to give you. And they also come to me for it. I don't bring it to them. And I feel that's what your question is really getting to, is like, how do you manage that or navigate that? Is that I'm not putting that on them. And I'm also not expecting them to return it to me. I'm just being my full version of myself.
Yeah. And that's an important, because one of the questions I get often, like after I get off stage and people are like, okay, I feel your energy. I see you and I hear you. How in the world do you combat the negativity? Of which is a whole nother keynote for me. But ultimately I don't shove it away. I don't ignore it. I see it for what it is and I get curious about it. So anytime that I talk to somebody and they are super passionate about what's wrong, about the negativity, I've learned to not shy away from it, because they're clearly telling me something. Like, they're thinking about the thing. They're just not thinking about the entire thing. And so when you think about like our daily habits, of which I'm curious about some of yours, we talked about a workout in hip hop just a minute ago, but so the mindset and the energy that we have is not set it and forget it. It's not just we wake up and like, it's just something that is always there. It's intentional. And I'm sure in different levels, in different ways. So whenever somebody comes to me with some of that, the opposite energy, if you will, I really, even if it's pessimistic, it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm not threatened by anybody else's thoughts or energy, because I'm sure of who I am and what I am and why I feel the way that I feel. And so when somebody is super negative or criticizing or whatever it is, I kind of lean in and say, tell me more. I say, tell me how you got to that thought process. Tell me what shaped your experience previously that made you feel that way. And then it becomes a very neutral conversation. And so the opposite of negativity sometimes isn't positivity. Mm-hmm. It's just understanding and presence.
100%.
How do you feel about that?
100%. Absolutely. I remember when I was in grad school, I went to Johns Hopkins for some advanced courses, and we talked about this right there. Like, getting in the mud with that person. Don't pull them out of the mud. Get in the mud. Ask them what the mud feels like. Tell them that you see the mud everywhere. It's here. Like, get that curious comfort, creating safety. Like, pulling someone out of something is not the way to help them. Getting in it with them is.
Yeah.
You're not going to catch it.
Yeah.
You're going to wash it off. You're going to dance it off. I learned this in graduate school, but it's also something that you don't have to go to school to learn. You can learn it from other people. Just to be able to take very care of yourself while you're caring for others. And so many people try to fix things by telling someone else advice or things like that. And that's not, like, what your words that you just said were the most beautiful, is just get curious. Like, stay curious and get in it with them, and then get out. You create some boundaries, you create some space, and then get out when it's time for you to take good care of yourself, so you can keep being the radiating positive light and things like that. So yeah, the world needs that.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be, actually, I don't think this at all. I know this to be true, but So I grew up with two sisters and my mom and my dad. I had a great family kind of growing up, but my mom and my two sisters and even my grandmas were really influential in my life. And one of the things that my mom told me, so she would come to me with something or just really just people in general, right? But my mom was kind of giving me this example. She was talking about something and I was trying to fix it. And she's like, no, sometimes women just want you to listen. And I thought, you don't want me to give advice? You don't want me to fix it? Right. And I thought, okay, this is now a moment that I need to learn how to what's the energy? What's the conversation? How do I understand that? But some of it truthfully was me honestly, when somebody comes to me with some of these things, I say, is this a listen or guidance? And then like, I actually just want you to listen. And then I listen fully with just the intention of hearing them. But when somebody says guidance, I also want to be able to serve them in the way that they need. But I had to be vulnerable enough to say, what you need from me matters more than me feeling or hoping that I can pick it out. Hopefully I can pick up on what you actually need from me. And a good friend of mine, so Ben Lambert and I, we went off to a hike in the Grand Canyon and there's a big story about him. I'm going to try to get him on the show on this as well. It's totally out of its comfort zone, but I think we may be able to do this. But he said something to me probably about 2 months ago that he doesn't even realize the impact it had, because he was telling me that he was talking to one of his good friends about some trouble and some just loss of connection and loss of purpose and just business and just some of the things he was struggling with. And he said he went to this friend and the friend was giving him advice, telling him what he should be doing, like just all advice. And he even said to me, he said, sometimes I just need somebody to listen. I just need to talk to somebody about what I'm going through. And I felt like he was kind of telling me as well, because he also knows that I'm in this space. But like him saying that really reminded me of, and I have a great friend now too. She's the same way, as maybe we just need to be with each other in more moments instead of, like you said already, pulling people out of moments. Because oftentimes we think when somebody trusts you and they feel safe with you that they're saying, help me. But maybe the help they need is be with me instead of pull me or
100%.
Whatever the thing may be, right? In this analogy. So I just really appreciate kind of your insight there too, as far as the mud and everything else. But there's always these like little glimpses of conversations that if we're present enough, we could get maybe some new insights. But it literally, for me, it takes one time, one person saying one thing for it to completely transform the way that I treat every relationship, and the way that I show up in a meaningful way. And again, our conversation that we had probably a few weeks ago now was the same way. Right. And we were talking about the word elevate. And I want to talk about this world of competition and this world of better and best and great and excellence and all these things. So just you as a person, like, what does that word elevate? Because when I use the word elevate in my message, that struck a chord with you. Right. And so I want to talk a little bit about the passion that you feel behind that word and how that shows up for you in your personal life and in your professional life.
Oh, that word. And, I actually, that was before I even knew you had this amazing podcast. And I was just like, I just loved your content. And I was like, I knew you were in my hometown. So I was like, hey, this is where you should go get some food.
Yeah.
The word elevate to me is like, I picture this visual of like someone holding your hand and like, we're both like pushing each other up. And I use in my work model and my life model abundance mindset. Like I share recipes. I'm not a gatekeeper. I love telling people what I did and how I did it. There's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no competition. Yeah. We all win, and I want everyone to win. And their version of winning, whatever their version of winning is, I want it for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dive into, so I kind of pulled that out a little bit after our conversation, that this idea of abundance mindset was kind of in your core, of which is such a big shift for a lot of people, because a lot of people are in a scarcity mindset, that everything's kind of happening to them, that there's a finite amount of resources, that if they win, somebody else needs to lose. And if somebody else won, that meant they lost. there's, and this is in every area of a life, right? So there's like such a give and take transactional energy that just naturally happens if we're not aware and we're not intentional. So my abundance mindset truthfully came from the book Carol Dweck's Growth Mindset. So I started to learn even like what is even abundance mindset. And then it freed me up from this scarcity aspect of fear and FOMO and all these other things. But it also really opened me up to a gratitude practice. So I want to lean in and ask a question because I honestly don't know this answer. We didn't prep this at all. I'm very curious about, has gratitude shown up in your journey kind of, and if so, kind of how does it show up for you on a daily basis? What kind of impact do you think it's had for you throughout your journey?
I love that. That's a great question. I really came from a scarcity. I was my adversity with my two young daughters and having a hard time paying bills and going to school to become what I am. And I don't like the word bottom, but it felt that. It was mine. It was mine, and I built myself and climbed up from it. So how I did that was through belief in myself, belief in my reason. You know, I wasn't seeking, my abundance came from having safety and security for myself and my daughters. And that was my why. And if your why is clear and your mission comes from that, and you use your passion and you keep building. And I found amazing friends during that time in my life. And I have such great friends now. And that's abundance. Like I'm seeking that. I'm seeking emotional security. I'm seeking to be that to others and to have a deep relationship with people. That's the abundance. You know, I'm not really into like the numbers. Everyone who works with me knows we're not a numbers thing. Like those things just, they don't matter. I just lost my grandmother last month, and I wrote about it because I'm doing writing projects and storytelling, and having a 95-year-old grandmother pass gave me this lesson that I will hold with me forever, that like, you're not taking things with you when you leave, except for the experiences that you've had and the people that you've loved. And that is freeing. And it also gives you this sense of abundance because like you are that. You can create and write your story of your life. You are writing it, whether you realize it or not. So coming from abundance and empowerment and getting into your passions and like falling in love with yourself, because you're going to be with yourself the rest of your life. I'm 100% certain of that.
Yeah.
And that's my abundance. That's the mindset. That's the me that has taken me through my life.